Oya cheshjita swaso Brahma bijama vishmaran. Hare Krishna.
Abhyasan manasa sudam trivi amaksharam param mano yaste divatsvaso Brahma Vijam Avishmaran. Hare Krishna.
Abhyasen manasa suddham Sri Brahmaksharam param Mano yachejita shvaso Brahma bija mavishmaran. Hare
Hare Krishna.
Abhyasedman manasa shuddham trivarat brahmaksharam param mano echechit shaso brahma bijma vismaram. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So we'll do word for word. Abhyaset, one should practice. Manasha, by the mind. Sudam, sacred. Trivrit, composed of the three. Brahma Aksharam, transcendental letters. Param, the supreme. Mana, mind. Yachet, get under control. Jitas Vasa, by regulating the breathing air. Brahma, absolute. Bijam, seed. Abhishmaram, without being forgotten. After sitting, and we'll do translation and purport by Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After sitting in the above manner, making the mind remember the three transcendental letters, A, U, M, and by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seed. Purport. Omkara, or the pranava, is the seed of transcendental realization, and it is composed of the three transcendental letters A, U, M. By its chanting by the mind in conjunction with the breathing process, which is transcendental but mechanical way of getting into trance, as divined by the experience of great mystics, one is able to bring the mind, which is materially absorbed, under control. This is the way of changing the habit of the mind. The mind is not to be killed. Mind or desire cannot be stopped, but to develop a desire to function for spiritual realization, the quality of engagement by the mind has to be changed. The mind is the pivot of the active sense organs, and as such, if the quality of thinking, feeling, and willing is changed, naturally the quality of actions by the instrumental senses will also change. Omkara is the seed of all transcendental sound, and it is only the transcendental sound which can bring about the desired change of mind and the senses. Even a mentally deranged man can be cured by treatment of transcendental sound. In the Bhagavad Gita, the pranava Omkara has been accepted as the direct literal representation of the supreme absolute truth. One who is not able to chant directly the holy name of the Lord, as recommended above, can easily chant the pranava Omkara. This Omkara is a note of address such as, "O my Lord," just as Om Hari, Om, means, "O my Lord," the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we have explained before, the Lord's holy name is identical with the Lord himself. So also is Omkara. But persons who are unable to realize this transcendental personal form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses, in other words, the neophytes, are trained to practice self-realization by this mechanical process of regulating the breathing function and simultaneously repeating the pranava Omkara within the mind. As we have several times expressed, since this transcendental name, form, attributes, pastime, etc. of the personality of Godhead are impossible to understand with the present material senses, it is necessary that through the mind, the center of sensual activities, such transcendental realization be set into motion. The devotees directly fix their minds on the person of the absolute truth. The one who is unable to accommodate such personal features of the absolute is disciplined in personality to train the mind to make further progress. Shri Chaitanya Manalistam Tapitamita Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swadvitantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shiva Sati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Swami Nityanamane Nikta Chaita Supanada Vagmanam Sharasa Plutam Prabhupada Gata Prananam Bhakti Charapadam. So I'll read the translation again. After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the three transcendental letters A, U, M. and by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seed. So this whole chapter is really powerful, and in order for us to better understand it, I thought it would be good to go back and read the story first, because sometimes when we're doing Bhagavatam class, we hear one verse, we hear a purport, we hear one verse, we hear a purport, but we don't often get the chance to just read the verses, the translation straight through, and really understand what's happening. And this chapter is the first step in God realization. So this might be something we want to hear over and over and over again. So I want to take a moment to just read the translations up until today's verse, just to give a sense of some of the some of the lessons that are being imparted in this chapter, because it's so important. And like I said, the name of the chapter is the first step in God realization. So to me, that's a big exclamation point to say this is something we should probably know and study a little bit. So I'm going to just read the translations, and then we'll dive in.
Mataji, can I go back? Because I can, and like.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Can you just jump to those translations so everyone can follow along?
Yep, here we are. Tell me when to
Beautiful.
start.
Okay, go ahead. So I'm going to start at the invocation and work my way down to 17 for today. Oh my Lord, the all-pervading, and I'm just going to read the translations. Oh my Lord, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, "My dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial to all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all transcendentalists." So Sukadev Goswami is saying this is a very bona fide question. This is a very important question. Those persons who are materially engrossed, being blind to the knowledge of ultimate truth, have many subject matters for hearing in human society, O Emperor. The lifetime of such an envious householder is passed at night neither in sleeping or in sex indulgence, and in the daytime either in making money or maintaining family members. Persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problem of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. O descendant of King Bharat, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the supersoul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. So this specific translation is giving us this jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, karma yoga. So these are the different ways that one can practice yoga, and maybe ultimately get to that understanding of God. And this is, and hopefully even come back to Godhead. We know Bhakti yoga is the highest, and we're going to get into more of that. But this is saying here, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, karma yoga. These are all processes along the path to understanding that. So text 7, O King Parikshit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists who are above the regulative principles and restrictions, take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. At the end of Dwapara Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas from my father, Srila Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. O saintly king, I was certainly situated perfectly in transcendence, yet I was still attracted by the delineation of pastimes of the Lord, who is described by enlightened verses. That very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you, because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. So here we are, the Shravanam step is described here. O King, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities is the doubtless and fearless way of success for all, including those who are free from all material desires, those who are desirous of all material enjoyment, and also those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge. What is the value of a prolonged life which is wasted, inexperienced by years in this world? Better a moment of full consciousness, because that gives one a start in searching after his supreme interest. The saintly king Katvanga, after being informed that the duration of his life would be only a moment more, at once freed himself from all material activities and took shelter of the supreme safety of the supreme person of the personality of Godhead. Maharaj Parikshit, now your duration of life is limited to 7 more days. So during this time, you can perform all those rituals which are needed for the best purpose of your next life. At this last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough not to be afraid of death, but one must cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it and all desires thereof. One should leave home and practice self-control in a sacred place. You should bathe regularly and sit down in a lonely place, duly sanctified. After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the transcendental letters AUM, and by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seed. So here it's going to go on. These instructions will continue to unfold for Maharaj Parikshit. And we know Maharaj Parikshit is in such an elevated position right now. One might, from a material sense, think this is not such a good position. One might, from a material sense, say this is a most unfortunate position because materially speaking, he only has 7 days to live. So what happens when when someone might receive a terminal diagnosis, some cancer diagnosis or some terminal diagnosis? It's very terrifying. So a lot of people, and you hear about this, go to their bucket list. They go to their bucket list and say, okay, what haven't I done in my life? I need to go travel here or do this or experience this or and so they're working in that material energy, and they're more deeply engrossing themselves in the material energy. And so this is how this repeated birth and death cycle continues. So this is a very unwise decision. So even though Maharaj Parikshit's situation is seemingly very unfortunate and very grim, he has 7 days to live. He was cursed. He upholds the highest, the most perfectional example of what we can do in those last moments of life is to deeply inquire about Krishna. And so Sukadev Goswami, as the deliverer of this message, came to him. He's a great Swami. He's a great transcendental sage. So Sukadev Goswami is now here to deliver this message. And in today's verse, he's sharing the transcendental letters of Om. And who hasn't heard the word Om? I mean, it's chanted in every yoga studio across the world. But a lot of people are just sit there and like, Om. I even see little kids sometimes will just sit there, Om, because they've seen it or heard it, but somehow they're attracted to it. They're attracted to it, even though they don't know what it is. And maybe they're just playing. They're just walking around pretending to be, meditating and crossing their legs and saying, Om. But this is a deep, deep connection. This is connecting us to God. And Om, God is present in Om. And he helps us understand this because he tells us directly this fact. He tells us in the Bhagavad Gita several times in Bhagavad Gita, he tells us that he is in the syllable Om. So here it is, right? Transcendentalists undertaking performance of sacrifice, charity, and penitence is in accordance with scriptural regulations. Begin always with Om to attain the supreme. This is Bhagavad Gita 17:24. So Krishna is saying this is what you do, and so in this transcendental Om vibration, this is how we can connect to God. We think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 8:13, after being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the transcendental, the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. And here it says, Prabhupada says, it's clearly stated here that Om, Brahman, and Lord Krishna are not different. This is in the purport of the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 8. But it is the impersonal sound of Om. So this is something that Prabhupada really makes clear. So Om gets us the impersonal, that Brahman, the impersonal aspect of Krishna. But why do we chant Hare Krishna? And I've been asked this, why do you chant Hare Krishna? Why not just sit there and chant Om? People do that. They sit in the yoga seat, they chant Om. Well, Prabhupada's telling us right here that Hare Krishna contains Om. But chanting of Hare Krishna is clearly recommended for this age. And it's also chanting the names of the Lord as well. And this is the personal form. So Prabhupada says that if at the end of one's life, he's quitting his body, he's chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, he certainly reaches one of the spiritual planets according to the mode of his practice. And the devotees of Krishna enter the Krishna planet, Goloka Vrindavan. This is a very important distinction. So let's get back to our verse now. So now we know that Om is a more impersonal aspect of God, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong, right? It just depends on our goal. What is our end goal? Do we want to have a more personal relationship with Krishna, with God, or we wanted to maintain that personal, that personal or that impersonal relationship? So in this understanding of Om, it's really, the whole message here is think of me. It's always think of me. Manmana baba mad bhakto. Madhyaji mam naruskuru. Mam eveshyasi yukvaitvam atmanam mat parayana. This is the crux of what's happening here. When we are thinking about those transcendental letters, Om, we are thinking about Krishna. And we're thinking about about our relationship. Engage your mind, always thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. And so this is the crux of spiritual activity. And there's tools. Krishna gives us many tools. Chanting Om, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, sitting in meditation, thinking about Krishna, doing devotional service, hearing about Krishna, which Maharaj Parikshit's hearing about Krishna. These are the tools that have been provided to us. Devotee association, sadhu sangha. These are all things that we've been given the opportunity for. So we just have to seize the opportunity, seize that moment to do that. So here, it's really interesting that Om, A-U-M, they are three distinct letters that are talked about here. And we think of Om as Om, O-M, but it's the A-U-M, Om. And these letters represent Krishna, Radharani. They represent, Balaram in those letters. They represent our pleading, our chanting to God. But when we're chanting just the Om, as Prabhupada said, we're more connected to that personal relationship with God when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. But here Prabhupada's saying, if one is in this material sense, in this material modes, then we're going to be missing this. We're not going to be interested in this activity. The only way to really bring one to a relationship with God is to have that desire. And this desire is something that's once we have the desire, we've expressed the desire to have a relationship with Krishna, then Krishna will pull us toward him. And through this process, we can find cleanse our hearts and find our way back. So in this verse here at the end, Prabhupada's saying that the Lord's holy name is identical with the Lord himself. Persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses are trained to practice self-realization by this mechanical process of regulating the breathing function. So we have a step forward. If we're still having difficulty in the material world, if we're still having, for those who are not fully committed to the process of wanting to engage in a relationship with God, to engage in this process, there's still the process of regulating the breathing. This is part of the dhyana yoga that's explained in Bhagavad Gita. We can regulate our senses. We can regulate our breathing. We can sit in posture. All of these things, just have, slits in our eyes and chant and meditate on that one syllable. And we can do that. But we know that the transcendental form of Krishna is really, we have to fix our minds on the absolute to obtain the true form of Krishna, to attain Krishna fully. We have to fix our minds directly there. We have to. It's not going to work otherwise. But that's okay. Like I said, not everyone has to go there. And mantra meditation is really popular, and was really popular, especially in the 70s, right? So people would be given a mantra. So this is the thing about the mantra meditation. This is the Om that we hear all around, people chanting Om. It's important to have some knowledge around that. So we can chant Om and just chant Om, and that will give us some benefits. So there's no question that people out there who are chanting Om are gaining some benefit from that, because Krishna is in that name. And it's said very clearly in different places that because Krishna is in Om, there is some benefit that is derived from chanting that. No question about that. But you hear about other transcendental meditation. You hear about these, the mantra-based meditation, and you hear people making up these different mantras or giving sound syllables. The problem with that is that that's not what Krishna prescribed. So, if you want to kind of get from the horse's mouth, so to speak, what's the actual prescription for our spiritual progress, then we probably should get it from Krishna. He's the one that's delivering this prescription of chanting Om, chanting his names. So when we think the mantra meditations that are out there and the various meditations are out there have some material benefit. And this is a really important thing to understand. It's not to discredit those meditation paths, but if we're looking for a deeply rooted spiritual path that's going to take us back home to Krishna, then that could be like trying to ride a tricycle on I-95, right? We're just not going to get there. We're going to get run over. It's just not going to work. It's not fast enough. It's not enough. It'll never get us to our destination. So, I think you're better off just not, you're going to get some benefit, but it's not going to derive the benefit that you're really going to need. So we want to find the highest benefit. And everyone that's on this call clearly has inquired deeply enough to say, what is the highest benefit for my spiritual growth? Right? Or else we wouldn't be here. So clearly at some point, everyone has asked the question, how do I achieve a relationship with God? What is the highest level of practice that I can do that's going to help me achieve that? And I was in Alachua this past weekend, and I was visiting some friends there, and we were having all kinds of beautiful conversations. And this is one of the things. It's like, what can I do to achieve in my life? How did I get here? What can I do to achieve in my life this this highest perfectional stage of yoga? But it's not an easy path. We know that. We were talking that, this is kind of like the Marines, and more than the Marines, it's kind of like the Navy SEALs, right, of spiritual life, because it requires focus. It requires dedication. It requires, some giving some things up, but if we really want to truly engage ourselves in a relationship with God, with Krishna, then these are the things that we must do. Now, I was having a conversation with someone else like last week about religion in general. And religion, there's so many different flavors out there. So, we have these different religions, and all of them have roots to God, almost all of them. It just depends on what you're wanting, right? And Krishna gives us so many different ways to experience a little bit of his energies through all religions. All religions have this. All religions have the opportunity to go deeper too. but we have to make that choice to go deeper. So we could be as shallow practicing Hare Krishna, you know, we could be like, Prashadam's good. I like the kirtan. It's all good, you know. So even from our perspective in our path, there are ways that when one can kind of just skim on the surface, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. If that's where your intention is right now, that's your relationship, that's your path, that's fine. You know, but the nice thing about this is that we have the opportunity to go deeper too. And through these processes, through these practices that have been given, that have been brought forward to us, we have that opportunity every moment and of every day by chanting. And by chanting the Maha Mantra every single day, then we are actually saying a prayer to God to more deeply engage us. So we have to be careful what we pray for, right? So we have to understand what the mantra is really asking for. If we're chanting the Maha Mantra and we're forgetting what it means, and we're just skimming the surface with it, and then we're suddenly getting these things coming into our life, maybe challenges, maybe tests, maybe Krishna's like, are you sure you want this? Are you sure this is what you're asking for? Because you're chanting to me every day this mantra. What are you really asking for? And this is an opportunity for us to really go within and say, okay, well, I'm chanting this mantra every single day. And I like to bring it back to chanting because for me, it's always just such a struggle too. I mean, I put myself in the neophyte box. I'm trying like heck to try and be a better devotee and to love Krishna more and to remember him more, because I know that in these material energies, things can get very challenging. You know, I was just at a business conference all week down in Florida, you know, so I was working 13-hour days and at this conference, and very much just having to, you know, talk the talk and all the language, because that's what my daily day-to-day occupation, that's part of my life right now, is that's how I have to make money. And I keep throughout all of this, I'm constantly praying, Krishna, please don't let me get caught up in the whirlwind of material energies. You know I have this occupation. I know I have to maintain my body and maintain my life and my house, but please don't let me get so engrossed and so attached to the outcomes of these activities that I lose myself and I lose you. And this is a daily prayer, because I know that if I don't hold on tight to Krishna, I'll just get whisked away in the currents of the material energies. And so although we can be chanting every day, it has to be done with intention. The chanting provides benefit no matter what, even if we're just speaking the mantras very superficially. Because even with the Om, like I said, you have children that are just sitting there and, you know, playing, saying Om, or people in a yoga studio that have no knowledge of any other Sanskrit. They have no knowledge of the path, but they sit there and do Om after every yoga class. And for somehow they feel good when they chant Om, and they know that there's benefit there. That's all good. If we want to go deeper, we have to have that desire. If we want to not sit in the material energies completely just blinded, then, and if we don't want to be so completely materially absorbed, we have to make a decision. We have to make a decision, because chanting will help us, but our intention has to be aligned with the words we're chanting. And it's kind of like you say, people talking out of two sides of their mouth, right? You know, so we're chanting out of one side and we're like doing something out of the other side that's completely misaligned with the essence of the mantra. It's misaligned with the prayer that we're actually chanting every day. And so this is where you have, like, you know, I would always say, you know, back when I was following more of a Christian path, of like, yeah, like they're the Sunday morning Christians, you know, that's it. That's all you get. They do whatever they do during the week, and they go to church on Sundays, and that's it. You know, they're not committed to the path. They're just going because they think that's going to absolve them somehow of their week. And that makes them feel better that they're going to church and having some community and doing these things. We, you know, and this is because that mentality keeps us very ingrained in material energies. So this is the importance of sadhana. And like I said, I talk about this a lot in classes because I think it can't be stressed enough that if our sadhana is not aligned with our day-to-day activities, then we are going to be maybe wasting our energies on one thing or another. And it could be causing some discord within us too. And so it's always an opportunity. And this is the thing too, with any kind of spiritual path, I always say, hey, it's your relationship with God. I'm not here to micromanage it, you know? That's between you and God. I don't, as long as it doesn't hurt me, I don't care what you're doing in your relationship. And I maintain that. I really try to maintain that unless someone asks me directly for help to say, hey, you know, Vrindavanesvari, I want to deepen my sadhana, and I'll say, me too. But you know, if someone has that desire, then we, you know, we can have a conversation about it. But it's really, and it's a personal relationship with Krishna. And until we have that goal, we have the sambandha, we have the abhidaya, the priyojana. This is the goal, priyojana. This is, we need to know how to get to that. Sambandha is the connection. That's really what we're aiming for, is that connection. How do we get there? What's the process of getting to that path? And so starting with something is better than not starting at all. And that's kind of my philosophy in my own life. I'm like, well, I'd rather just start something than just sit back and kind of be, you know, an armchair spiritualist where, you know, I'm sitting on the sidelines watching everyone else do their stuff, thinking, they've got it covered. I should probably do that, but I'm good. I'll just, you know, I'll just sit back on the sidelines. So we have these opportunities, and say, like I said, I'm just coming off of a business trip, so I'm maybe a little more fired up just for my own benefit to remind myself how to just dive into those energies, because Krishna's energies are so potent, but so are Maya's. And Maya is an agent of Krishna. And if Maya sees that we're getting a little too interested in her world, she's more than happy to pull us a little bit deeper. And so through the process, even though we might be chanting every day, if our intention's not set for the end result of that chanting to be achieving Krishna, and if our activities throughout the day are not reflective of that chanting, then, you know, and then we might be suffering more too. We might have things in our life and we're feeling not connected. We're not feeling, you know, we might feel more frustration in life, rather than feeling that we're actually connected. We're linked up to Krishna. And that's what yoga is. It's a linking. It's yoking us to God. And the syllable Om is a very powerful, it's a very powerful syllable to be chanting. So that alone, you know, if we understand that God's presence in his name, and even in Christianity, on the first, you know, there's the different days of creation, and God created sound, right? The first day? I think the first day God, or second day God created sound. But it's
I think it's the second day.
Second day, I think, yeah.
I think the first day is the firmament or something like that.
Yeah, and then let there be light. Yeah. And so
light.
So then sound, you know, God created sound, and the sound of God, that is transcendental. We just materialize it. So we have to know that whatever, if God is giving this to us, this is transcendental, this is beneficial to us, as long as we apply it. And so, like I said, I'm coming off a business trip. I'm definitely, you know, looking to get my own spiritual energies raised again. So today was interesting timing for me with class, especially with the technological issues too. But this is life, right? This is what we endure. You know, anybody out there who's, you know, just working and has families and trying to balance all of these things might perhaps feel at least a small bit of that tug and challenge of balancing all of those energies throughout the day. And so sometimes I think it's good to just have a real conversation with one another to to be able to redirect ourselves and get ourselves back on track. And for me, like I said, get myself back on track and know that Krishna's there for us always. We just have to ask for him. We just have to ask. We just have to turn toward him. It's as easy as that. And as soon as we turn toward Krishna and we say, please don't let go of me, and I don't want to let go of you, and please, God, just hold on tight, because I don't want to be whisked away, caught up in the currents. You know, I want to be with you. 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 And that prayer with that feeling when we're chanting can take us so far throughout our day and get us over those humps and get us over those difficulties. And when someone cuts us off in traffic, and you know, these are the, like I said, when our computers break and do really strange things like mine's doing right now, you know, that these things were just like, okay, I'm in the material energies, but my heart is with you, Krishna. And I know that as long as my heart is deeply connected to you, Lord, these material energies will move on as they're meant to, but I don't have to get completely whisked away in them. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'll end there and we'll leave a few minutes for reflection, questions, corrections, or anything else you'd like to share.
Hey, Krishna, thank you very much for a wonderful, wonderful lecture. And fact that you actually started from the beginning of this particular chapter, from the invocation and read, so we see the whole trend about how things were unfolding through what Chikade Goswami was saying up to this text 17 is very, very, very nice. Dear devotees, this is the time to unmute yourself if you have a question, a takeaway, or some realization that you'd like to share. Please unmute yourself now. Hare Krishna. Anyone?
Hare Krishna, Vrindavanesvari. Please accept my humble obeisance so grace of Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
I really want to thank you for talking about, you know, the meaning of Om. As Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, it's just, you know, there is definitely some benefit in it because, you know, we are addressing the Lord. But when I was thinking about that, I was thinking how merciful we are, how merciful the mercy we have received, I said. I mean, you know, how merciful we got this mercy from Srila Prabhupada, that not only did he give us a mantra from Lord Chaitanya of addressing the Lord, but also making it more personal,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because in the purport, Prabhupada says, Om is addressing the Lord, but then and then what's the next sentence? I was just thinking, okay, like, it's like me calling my kid, you know, and she's like, okay, Mom, why did you call me? You know,
Yeah.
but your Prabhupada made it so much more deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did Srila Prabhupada make it so much more deeper by giving us that the next step after addressing the Lord, but he gave us the mantra from Lord Chaitanya to help us remember that we are to engage ourselves in service. So I was really thinking, whoa, Srila Prabhupada really went above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Like he brought the science down, you know? And yeah, so that was one of my takeaways, you know, how Srila Prabhupada made it very personal. And I think that's one thing that over the years in my Krishna consciousness, I've learned that Krishna consciousness is not sentimentalism. We've heard that so many times. It's very scientific, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's cause and effect, you know. If we act this way, this is the result. If we don't act this way, this is the result. So it's all about being personal because Krishna is a personal God.
Yeah.
I remember my spiritual master saying that Krishna is a personal God. So we should also learn to be personal with one
Exactly.
another, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, it's
love it.
funny because sometimes we know that the Lord is personal, but we have a hard time being personal and compassionate or caring or understanding with one another. But that's Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Lord is
Absolutely.
all that. And we are worshiping the Lord who is so personal and so caring and so compassionate and so deep, right? But we cannot do that or have that with one another, then something is missing.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
it goes back to your point of the sadhana,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
chanting, the chanting and the mind control. The mind control. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Vrindavaneshi,
Oh,
for sharing that.
thank you. That's good, excellent points. Thank you so much. And I see Geeta has a
Nikita,
question.
your hand is up. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Please go ahead.
Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for explaining the meaning of Om. Usually we say Om, 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 but it's actually Om. And
Yeah.
pronunciation also, generally people don't get it. So
Mhm.
thank you so much. And what Anasuya said was like cherry on the cake. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Dear Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare
Very, very
Krishna.
wonderful, wonderful points like Anusya Mataji and Gita Mataji already expressed. The distinction between Om and Maha Mantra and all that. Uh, even devotees, as devotees, sometimes we have hard time when somebody asks those questions. So thank you for that. And I really like the point where you mentioned how everyone has their spiritual path and they are responsible actually for their path. Something that cannot be micromanaged doesn't help because unless I have the desire, nobody can micromanage my sadhana. But the importance of
Exactly.
sadhana, yeah. And because sometimes I see as enthusiastic devotees, sometimes we become too much involved and try to transform the other person. But if
Yeah.
unless that person has a desire, it's very difficult. So ultimately, it comes down to my own desire, my own how to express it. I mean, what exactly I want to follow, right? So otherwise,
Yeah.
it doesn't work out. So thank you, Mataji, for bringing those points.
No, thank you, Prabhu. And it's so true. I mean, I think what you said about sometimes devotees want to get overly involved. And it's good to be there as a support person, especially for new people. I think sometimes we get excited or, we want to help them along their path. And but it's ultimately their goal, their path, and they have to, we can provide the resources, we can provide the love and support and compassion, and help give them the tools they need, but it's up to them. And like I said, we each individually, I'm sure, have our own internal struggles that it's impossible to not have our own internal struggles in this material world. Each and every one of us has our own material and internal struggles that we're working through. And so I think it's, sometimes we try and fix everyone else first, because our own internal struggles are hard. And so it's easy to see someone else's struggles and want to try and move them along in their journey. Because the lens is always easier when it's pointed outward to see other people's struggles and difficulties. And so with this path, giving someone the opportunity to chant, giving them the Maha Mantra is a great gift, and it's given out freely. It's printed on things that people can just see, and so they have the opportunity to be exposed to the Maha Mantra. And if they feel it, they'll know it, and if they know it, they'll pursue it. And so we can plant those seeds.
Right. Thank you
Thank you,
very
Mataji.
much,
Thank you.
Lisa. Oh, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So many realizations are coming from this. I want to talk about one thing that I picked up and then also ask a question.
Sure.
So what I picked up is from the purport by Srila Prabhupada, and that was a big, big eye opener. So it says that even a mentally deranged man can be cured by the treatment of a transcendental sound. A mentally deranged person, crazy person, can be cured by the treatment of this transcendental sound, Omkara.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very powerful statement, and something that we can turn into a practical thing if we can get the attention of somebody who's deranged and make them repeat after you like that. Maybe they'll be able to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's very powerful. Very, very, very powerful.
It is super powerful.
Yeah. So that's one thing I've learned from this. When the opportunity comes, I would definitely try to serve like that. And then the other point is from where you quoted in the Bhagavad Gita. I think it's chapter 9,
Manmana Baba
text
Matbhakto.
34. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And says, Man mana baba mat bhakto madhijimam nanaskuru mam vishashadviprevam atmanam matparayana. And that end of it, engage your mind thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and then worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you'll come to me. And that part, being completely absorbed in me, that's what got me thinking, and that's where my question is. Although I think you actually partly answered it with some of the things that you've said in your preaching, but give some ideas about how one can become completely absorbed. You can be partly absorbed, but completely absorbed is a different story. So, so how does one become completely absorbed? Because he says, if you're completely absorbed, you're coming to me.
Yeah,
You're coming to me. So.
Well, I'll remind you of another verse in Bhagavad Gita where he said, 10,000, only one will, come to truly know me. It's a very rare person that can really become completely absorbed and be completely, know Krishna in totality. So I'll just bring it back to that as kind of a, reminder. It's not to say it's impossible, but the Krishna tells us that it's a very rare person that can be completely absorbed in thinking of him. So that said, I think we have the tools to be more than partially absorbed and work toward being completely absorbed. And and so I think the key is that everything that we do to be completely absorbed means that we're always thinking about Krishna, that everything we do reminds us of Krishna. Everything we do, we're doing for Krishna, to please Krishna. And not on I please Krishna, now I feel good about myself. That's the trick, right? This is one of the trappings of the mode of goodness, is pride. So everything that we have to do has to transcend the mode of goodness. And this trapping of being prideful in our activities, that, I'm pleasing Krishna now, look at me. This is something that in these material energies can be very, can get us at the back door, like sneak up on us. And so through that absorption, it's important that it's just humility, right? I think that my personal view is that it's something that is just within us. It's not something we wrangle with or think about. The person that comes to this deep level of absorption, in my opinion, it's just their constitution. Like they are. They don't sit back and think, how can I become more absorbed in Krishna? They just are. It's just and so for us on our path is that the more that we think less about we think about the process, but the more we just keep thinking about Krishna and thinking about not letting go of Krishna and think about the fear of losing Krishna, that ultimately, and Krishna will just pull us in tighter and tighter and tighter. And I think a lot of it's his causeless mercy. Krishna grabs, Krishna can grab someone right out of the mix and be like, you're mine. Because there's such he sees a connection, he sees a desire, and through the Krishna's causeless mercy, he just snags someone. He can just snatch us up. But when we're open enough to allow for Krishna to just snatch us up like that, and we just say, yay, here I am. He got me. No, and he's not going to let go. I know it. And I know it in my heart. He's not going to let go. Krishna snagged me. And I'm thrilled. And all I want to do is just think about him all the time, because I'm just so deeply, deeply in love with Krishna, because he snagged me. He snagged my heart. And that just, I think, comes from being, not wrangling, right? And the more that we're in a state of being, and being with the energies of Krishna in our hearts through chanting, being with the energies of Krishna in our heart through reading and hearing, then that state of being increases. And that state of being increases to the point where Krishna is like, ooh, look, there's one. And he snatches us up. And, I know what I'm speaking is not citing Shastra. It's just what I believe. And I really feel that if we stay close to those who we feel already have been captured by Krishna, then we have association, and we can hope that rubs off on us. That mood rubs off on us. And Srila Prabhupada, I believe, was captured by Krishna. So if we stay close to Srila Prabhupada and stay close to his teachings and his words and his lectures, and keep Srila Prabhupada in our hearts, that gives us a pretty darn good chance,
Thank you very much. Very much. This is wonderfully explained. And as you were talking about it, I was just thinking about the main terms that describe everything that you talked about in the Shastra. You talked about association with the pure devotee, when you lose the Prabhupada, when you said the state of being, the person that's there already, you describe a pure devotee. I mean, so all of that you were doing, but you were describing, it's like we were getting the definitions as you were going on, which is wonderful. It gets us to that point. So thank you very much for describing like that. Yeah, and it's quite clear. And the other point I wanted to piggyback, this is not a question now, on what Ansia talked about earlier, the Om and then the Hare Krishna mantra. Om addresses the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, if you address the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then what? Then what? The mantra says, please engage me in devotional service to you. So that's the answer to that. If you're calling him and then asking that you engage in devotional service to you, that comes from the Hare Krishna mantra. So we're indirectly saying nobody should go back to Om when you know the Hare Krishna mantra. Stay with the Hare Krishna mantra because it's fuller. It's addressing the Lord and also asking that we be the servant of the Lord to perform devotional service.
As Prabhupada said, it includes Om already. So it's redundant to say Om if we're already chanting Maha Mantra. So it's inclusive. So there's no need to chant already. So thank you. Yeah, good points.
A mentally deranged person. I'm still tripping over it. But
I know. It's unbelievable. And I think whenever I read stuff like that, I always think, because they say they need to hear it. But I always think there's different types of hearing. And I think why, we might see, someone that they get some benefit. It's a seed is planted. But when I think of hearing, and when I reflect on hearing, like from a spiritual sense, it is a deep hearing. It is a hearing that penetrates every cell of our bodies. That degree of hearing, I believe, can really transcend everything within us. That degree of hearing, of actually that deep penetration in our soul. That's the hearing that I'm thinking of whenever I read hearing in Shastra, I recognize hearing as that deep soul penetrating, cellular penetrating hearing, not like, I heard that. Yeah, I heard you. I'm hearing that, but your brain's somewhere else. So to penetrate a deranged mind and have them actually truly hear it could be a challenge. You'd have to have a powerful chanter in their ear that could really cut through the mental noise to get to that cellular and soul level.
Thank you very much. Anybody else that wants to ask a question? Share a realization?
I wanted to share something. Of course, this is not someone who is mentally deranged, but at that time, at least devotees thought, that this person was crazy, the pastime of Crazy Peter, worship, devotees. I mean, he wasn't mentally deranged. He was just, whatever they called. But who would have ever thought that Crazy Peter would come out and turn out to be Kushakrata Prabhu translating Prabhupada's books?
Right.
You
never know. It's the power. Something in him awoke.
Exactly. And the funny part is he was addicted to prasadam. and the
Yeah.
holy name. And, and he just kept coming back for prasadam. And next thing, he moved in and the holy name. But, I mean, again, in a way, I'm not saying that it's mentally deranged, but devotees thought at that time that, that's why they call him Crazy Peter. But look how he turned out, he became Kushakrata Prabhu and he became translator for some of the Shastras. And yeah, it's
You never know.
unpredictable. You never know.
Yeah.
We
He's
can
translated a
never
lot of
know
books.
someone's you can never know someone's internal culture and their internal
Yeah.
environments. We never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that when Parikshit asked that question, so
Yeah. Devotees actually complained. They complained to Srila Prabhupada about him, according to what Giriraj Swami or Tamaki Swami, one of them said. And then Srila Prabhupada responded, why? You cannot tolerate? See, because Srila Prabhupada knows
He knows
all his
someone's heart.
devotees, deeper. So he knew the kind of person that the so-called Crazy Peter was. And then later on, when those who call him crazy saw him in in a temple, and they said, "That's Crazy Peter. Is that what's his? Oh no, he's Kushakrata Prabhu now." And they were shocked. Those who were calling him Crazy Peter, they were shocked. Yeah, he translated Sanskrit. You learn Sanskrit and translate. That's what. Yeah, the whole Garga Samhita with him, that's his translation. The entire Garga Samhita, 17 books. Is him. So you never know.
Never know, right? Hare
Yeah.
Krishna. Thank you.
Any last because we passed the hour now, so any last points that the Buddhists want to bring up? If not, then thank you very much, Navneshwar Mataji, for a very nice class and nice, discussion. Quite a few of us joined in the discussion. So, dear devotees, thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend. And tomorrow we're having our 9-hour kirtan from 12 noon to 9 at the temple. So please come, adjust your time so you can soak in the holy name. The Hare Krishna
I'll miss
mantra.
you guys. I'm sorry I can't make it. I had a Friday
for the next one, Vrindavanesvari.
Please, please,
Definitely.
please. I really want to come.
Yeah, it went from 8 hours to 9 hours. I don't,
how fun.
More people coming, so it switched from 8 to 9 hours.
A lot of people are coming.
Sign me up for the next one. I will pray
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you, Vrindavanesvari.
Hare Krishna. And one text says, Pawan Mataji, my humble obeisance all glory to the Prabhupada. So this is an appreciation for the lecture on the text. Hare Krishna. Vanchaka Patrubhischa Kripa Sundive Evacha Jitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Chiro Pariki. Yeah, come soak the holy name.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Go Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Go Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.